Our next speaker this morning, ladies and gentlemen, is certainly no stranger to this convention. He always wants to come and bring some message, bring some issues and some knowledge and just an update on what's going on from the Treasurer's Office. Dale Folwell was first elected as our state treasurer in 2016. He's a financial consultant from Winston-Salem. Prior to serving as our state treasurer, Dale Folwell was elected to 4 terms in the North Carolina House of Representatives, including 2 years as Speaker Pro Tem. After leaving the legislature, Governor Pat McCrory appointed him to serve as Assistant Secretary of Commerce and charged him with managing, of all things, the Employment Security Commission. As state treasurer, our treasurer oversees the state's health plan and the state's financial portfolio. Let's give a warm Farm Bureau welcome to our state treasurer, Dale Folwell. Mr. Treasurer.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning to the convention. Sometimes when people think about the Treasurer's Office, they often ask if we sign the $1 bill, because that's where people most often see the word treasurer. We don't sign the $1 bill at your Treasurer's Office, but we manage the 26th largest pool of $1 bills in the whole entire world. In addition to what the President said about the state health plan, we have the state pension plan, which has nearly 1 out of 10 adult North Carolinians, many of whom are in this room today, who are participants in this pension plan. Basically, anyone across the state at any local or state level who teaches, who protects, or who otherwise serves us in state or local government, their pension plan is managed by the Treasurer's Office. So we're called the keepers of the public purse. And as keepers of the public purse, it's very important for me, and I know the previous speakers agree with me, that even though I'm standing up here giving the report, I'm standing on the shoulders of a lot of people who help make this happen. As a matter of fact, every time that I'm in Greensboro, it's never a bad idea to remember former Congressman Howard Coble. And Howard Coble used to say when he would go home to Alamance County on Sunday afternoons for lunch, and he would say thank you to his mom for putting out this big spread. And Mrs. Coble would say, well, Howard, it just didn't jump up on the table by itself. Everything that all of you do on your daily lives, this very convention, just didn't jump up on the table by itself, so I applaud you. Just very quickly, at every convention I give you an update about the financial health of North Carolina, and I start with a lot of things that people don't wake up and think about in the mornings. They wake up and think about how to best educate our kids, how to protect us from criminals, how to otherwise serve us, and the most important thing as it relates to this convention and Farm Bureau is to inform the people of this state that food does not come from a store. Food comes from a farm. And I think that any time that we can get that, thank you. So starting with the state's AAA bond rating, and it doesn't matter how you're registered to vote or how you care about certain topics, the fact is everybody across North Carolina agrees that any time the state needs to borrow money, that being able to borrow it at the lowest possible interest rates is good for public schools, public safety, public roads, and all the other core functions of our state government. We're one of 14 states this morning that has the AAA bond rating. Obviously, that is very important because as we go to market to issue bonds, we're issuing bonds at interest rates that are below 2%. On the state pension plan, I recently invited Pew Research to come in. It's an objective think tank to what we call stress test our pension portfolio. At the end of the day, we're in the check delivering business. As a matter of fact, we're going to spend over $520 million every 30 days just for pension benefits. $520 million this year every 30 days. So having an objective firm to come in and stress test our pension portfolio to make sure that it can withstand an economic shock, the likes of which we saw after 9/11, after we saw after 2008, is very important. Our report card just came in, and that stress test showed that your pension plan, that all of our teachers and troopers and other public servants depend on is one of the top 5 funded and pension plans in the United States. And Moody's just put out a report and said that in terms of our ability to actually fund this pension plan, that we're actually #1 in the United States. So thank all of the people who participate in this plan, but especially the taxpayers and the state employees and local employees who help fund it. This pension plan has growing pressure, the same pressure that you see in your everyday life. Even though lower interest rates are great for issuing bonds and they're great for starting businesses and buying cars and buying farms and buying houses, low interest rates are a real issue for pension plans like ours. When Harlan Bowles, who was the beloved treasurer of North Carolina, considered the best state treasurer in the United States of the 20th century, when he was the treasurer, interest rates were 8 or 9%. So it's easy to be the state treasurer when government bonds are paying 9% and you only have to earn 7.25%. But as you know, interest rates are much lower than that, and that produces pressure. Secondly, we have a pension plan where, in a blessed way, that life expectancies are increasing. As a matter of fact, if you're a female in this room and you come to work for the state, possibly right out of college, you actually could be retired for longer than you worked. First time in our lifetimes that has ever happened. So the pension plan is dealing with the blessingness of increased life expectancies, and that obviously long-term puts pressure. But we got a great pension plan, and we're continuing to work on that. On the health care plan, we still have major challenges. Many of you saw this last year, that when I tried to attempt to find out what the state health plan is paying for health care, this is what the state hospital, UNC Healthcare, sent me as a master price list for what health care services are. Completely redacted. The healthcare industry does not want you to know what you pay for health care. And not only has this been an issue that we started talking about at this very convention almost 2 years ago, this has now become a national issue. The President of the United States has put out an executive order to bring transparency to health care. It's the only thing in your life that you don't know the price and the value of it, even after you've consumed it. Now the President of the United States is actually being sued because the President, like myself, is trying to get rid of secret contracts in health care. It's very important going forward, and it's very important for you as individuals, very important for your communities, and very important for all of your clients at Farm Bureau. This has gotten a little bit ridiculous. You've heard the issues about split billing, out-of-network billing, surprise billing. Let me tell you what split billing is. Split billing is where somebody came up to me last month with an example of a teenager who had played soccer and had ingrown toenails on both big toes. Common thing with teenagers. So this teenager went to get ingrown toenails fixed on both big toes, 2 bills, 2 facility fees, 1 doctor, 1 visit. This is happening all across the state. Just last night, somebody came up to me at a Christmas party, and on the prescription drug side, their doctor started prescribing, instead of a drug that they take once a day, they started taking a drug twice a day. And the patient asked the doctor, "Why are you prescribing it?" He said, "Because the one-a-day drug, the same drug by the same company that's been out 24 years, the one-a-day drug costs $2 a pill, but the twice-a-day drugs only cost 20 cents a pill." This is what's happening in health care and prescription drugs, and that's why we're trying to get to the bottom of it at the state health plan. And lastly, if you go to the New York Times over the weekend, you read this expose by a doctor whose husband went over the handlebars of his bicycle. The doctor needed a prescription refilled for a painkiller. He had 6 broken ribs, lots of injuries, and the patient did, and they called the doctor, and the doctor said, "Well, I'm working in the emergency room today. Why don't you come by and get that prescription refill from me?" It's one of these prescriptions you have to physically pick up. This person got an emergency room bill for $2,300 by simply going to the emergency room and picking up a piece of paper from a doctor who said, "I just happened to be here today." I just want to tell you that sometimes people get a little confused about the tone of what I'm saying. These are the most serious issues facing the state of North Carolina. solving these issues on healthcare transparency and lowering the healthcare cost and pushing the power down the consumer are going to make the generational difference in our state. And as I close, I just want to thank the President, and not only him, but also his wife, Laura, because we're standing on not only your shoulders, but hers, because of all those sacrifices and service that you've made to be a public servant. I'm also applying for the job to be the state treasurer next year and keeper of the public purse. But I know that even though you've never done that, you've been a public servant your entire life. And you and your wife and your organization has operated that way. As I close, I just want to remind you that I appreciate what you do as the Farm Bureau. I don't know exactly where it is on YouTube, but I recently saw a 15-minute speech by someone who talked about all the regulation that a bacon, lettuce, and tomato sandwich has to go through in order for somebody to eat it. You should find that video. All the regulation that a bacon, lettuce, and tomato sandwich has to go through in order for somebody to actually consume it. That is how I know how important Farm Bureau is and how important farming is. As I close, I just want to tell you that unlike the previous presenters, I don't have anything fancy to give you other than my word that as the state treasurer and the keeper of the public purse, that I'm going to continue watching the pennies and the paper clips in your absence. So, Mr. President, I'm going to present you today with a penny and a paper clip to remind you of my commitment. Thank you very much.